Umbreon V and Vmax were recently introduced as part of the upcoming set Eevee Heroes, and I am so excited for these cards. I think they're going to bring Single Strike Urshifu from Tier 2 to Tier 1 overnight. Hey everyone, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today we are talking about, like I said, the Umbreon V and Vmax from the Eevee Hero set, which is going to release in the United States in August 2021, and I would advise you to get your pre-orders in once they're available as soon as possible, because this set is already generating a ton of hype. So if you don't want to pay a premium or you don't want to wait forever, as soon as you hear the opportunity to get your pre-orders in, go and do it. We should also talk about the other thing that happened recently, and that's my face. I shaved my beard, unfortunately. I decided to join the Army National Guard recently, and as a result, I have to be clean shaven. I will be going in and out of having a beard and stuff, so if you see it in the future, don't be like, are you not in the National Guard? It's just, that means I'm filming a video in between training periods where I can have a beard, so, you know, you're not supposed to, but like, whatever. Anyway, let's get into the topic of this Umbreon V and Vmax. I am so excited for these cards. Starting with Umbreon V, it is a dark type Pokemon, and is also a single strike Pokemon, which is huge, and it has 200 HP. It's fine, right? You're gonna get knocked out by the same stuff that you would normally get knocked out with Max Victory, Brave Blade, all that kind of stuff. It has a weakness to Grass, which is great because Grass isn't that prominent, and it has a retreat cost of 2, which makes it usable with something like Air Balloon. It has 2 attacks, the first being Mean Look for 1 dark energy. It does 30 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat next turn. It's not the most incredible attack in the world, but it is a nice little thing to do, maybe turn 2 if you don't have enough energy to get off the second attack, or if you're just trying to force your opponent to burn some resources. Maybe they only have like 1 or 2 cards in their hand and you don't think they're going to be able to play a switch or something like that to get that Pokemon out of the active, then, you know, sure, maybe Mean Look, but you're not really using this Pokemon for Mean Look. You are using it for the second attack, Moonlight Blade, for 1 dark, 2 colorless. It does 80 damage, but if this Pokemon has any damage counters on it, it does an additional 80 damage for a total of 160 damage. Getting damage counters on single strike Pokemon is super easy to do because you have Houndoom with its ability Single Strike Roar, which lets you search your deck for a single strike energy, attach it to a single strike Pokemon, but that Pokemon takes 20 damage in the process. So just by virtue of putting energy onto this Pokemon, you will be taking damage, activating Moonlight Blade's secondary effect. So you'll be doing actually 180 damage because of the extra 20 damage that the single strike energy gives you, which 180 damage to be able to do turn 2. I mean, all you have to do is play Umbreon, attach an energy, play a Houndoom, next turn, evolve your Houndoom, or your Houndour into Houndoom, Single Strike Roar, attach for turn, done. Or if you have 2 Houndours on the bench, turn 2, you evolve them up. Anyway, there's a lot of ways you can get this energy requirement of 3 turn 2. It's really not that bad, and you could be hitting for 180, 200 damage turn 2, and you don't have the caveat of not being able to attack next turn. And because single strike decks don't really run any type of healing for like potions or whatever healing cards there are, you're not going to be losing those damage counters. So once they go on, they're going to stay on, and you're going to be able to hit for 200 damage consistently every turn as early as turn 2. You can theoretically hit for 220 or more, but that's not the point. So why is this card so good? Well, 160 damage. Let's pretend you don't have the single strike energy. You just somehow take damage from an attack and you manually attach all your energies. You're doing 160 damage. The problem with single strike Urshifu is that it's weak to Psychic, and things like Alcremie VMAX, Mewtwo Mew GX, which isn't really a factor because by the time this comes out, it'll have rotated out, but Dragapult VMAX, and the upcoming Shadow Rider Calyrex and Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX are all Psychic type Pokemon that you can expect to see going forward, which will obliterate your Urshifu. So to compensate for the Psychic weakness, we need Pokemon that can hit back really hard on those Psychic Pokemon, and psychic Pokemon are typically weak to dark, so having a dark type Pokemon is the way to go. But if you're wondering, but Nick, there are single strike dark type Pokemon like Tyranitar V, and you're going to be getting in Chilling Rain Slowking, so you have options. Not really. Tyranitar V, its first attack only does, what is it, like Cragalanche? It only does like 60 damage base, and yeah, you can power that up with single strike energy to do, what is it, 80, 100, 120 damage. You hit for weakness 240, right? Great. That'll take out a Shadow Rider Calyrex V, that'll take out a Dragapult V, but it's not going to take out the VMAXs. So you have to use the second attack, which is Single Strike Crush, I think, and that does 240 base, which if you get the energies, you don't even need the Single Strike energies, because 240 times 2 is 480, and you're going to be taking out anything in the game that's weak to dark with 480 damage. So you don't have to worry so much, but those 4 energies are hard to get as early as turn 2. Yeah, okay, we could play the scenario out. Turn 1, we go, we get our energies, we get our Houndour, and we pass to our opponent. Their first turn, they can't get their VMAX onto the field, right? They have to wait until their next turn to evolve, so technically we have a little bit of time to power up our Tyranitar in order to hit those VMAXs for what they need. Yes, that is true, but who wants to wait? Who wants to need 4 energies? What if it's later in the game when you finally get your Tyranitar? There's too many ways where needing 4 energy is too much. And we already have a Pokemon that needs 4 energy, and that's our Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. It needs 4 energy, so to have 2 competing Pokemon with needing such high energy, not really the best. When it comes to Slowking doesn't really do a lot of damage. It has Doom Word, which if your opponent's Pokemon stays in the active spot next turn, it just gets knocked out at the end. But there are so many ways to switch between Bird Keeper, Escape Rope, and the switch card, things like Air Balloon. You can manually retreat. Like, there are a ton of ways to get your Pokemon out of the active spot where Doom Ward's not really feasible. Maybe if you start pairing her with things like Galar Mine and all this other kind of stuff, but again, Bird Keeper, Switch, whatever it's called, Escape Rope, like these are all ways that bypass something like Galar Mine. And there you go. If you're playing a dark deck and they attach a hiding energy, dark hiding energy, then they just retreat for free. It doesn't matter what their retreat cost is with Galamine. So there's too many ways to make that work. And the Slowking VMAX has its attack max Deadly Poison, which for 2 energy does 10 damage. And your opponent's Pokemon is now poisoned. They put 12 damage counters in between turns instead of 1, which is great to be able to put 130 damage on your opponent's Pokemon. They stay poisoned, but again, once they leave the active, if they evolve, the status condition goes away, and you're not taking that knockout on a Shadow Rider Calyrex that you need. Even if you are just against a regular Shadow Rider Calyrex, all they have to do is switch and then retreat, and you basically just put 120 damage, and they're going to take a 3 prize knockout, or they're going to put big damage back on you, and you're never really knocking out an opponent's Pokemon. You're just dealing damage, which is good, but you need to knock them out in order to win. That's where Umbreon V does the job better. If you're playing against a Psychic deck and it's weak to Dark, well then that 160 damage now turns into 320, which is enough to knock out Shadow Rider Calyrex in 1 hit. And if you're saying, but what if they put a Big Charm on? Now we're 30 damage shy. Well, if we have a Single Strike Energy on Umbreon, now it doesn't matter, because now we're doing 360 damage, which is 10 more than a Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, even with the Big Charm. So we're still able to take the 1-hit knockout, and honestly, you should be able to get a Single Strike Energy onto your Single Strike Pokemon. That's like the whole thing. What about Umbreon VMAX though? Umbreon VMAX has 310 HP, which is fine. There are a few things that are going to be doing 310 damage, so we don't have to really worry about the 1-hit knockout. It's probably going to be a 2-tap, but it has the ability Dark Signal, and this is what takes the Umbreon VMAX to just new levels. Once during your turn, when you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their benched Pokemon. So basically, by evolving into Umbreon VMAX, you now get to use essentially Boss's Order without using the supporter option for your turn, which is great, because maybe your opponent has a Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX on their bench that they're powering up, or that they have a bunch of energy on one of their other Pokemon, because the way Shadow Rider VMAX attacks works is that it does damage based on all of the psychic energies that your opponent has on all of their Pokemon. So if one of their Pokemon has like 3, 4, 5 psychic energies on it, well, you don't want that, because that's more damage that Shadow Rider is going to be able to do. So you evolve Umbreon V into Umbreon VMAX, you pull that Pokemon into the active spot, and then you hit it with Max Arc, which does 160 damage for 1 dark and 2 colors. Not a ton of energy, not a ton of damage rather, but if it is weak to dark, you're going to be hitting it for 320, and if you have any single strike energies, you will be hitting it for even more. If all 3 energies that you're using to use Max Arc are single strike, you're going to be hitting for 220 damage, which will knock out most Pokemon V in the game. Again, it also has a weakness of grass and a retreat cost of 2, so just because you evolve it doesn't mean you won't be able to freely retreat it with Air Balloon, which I think is great. So there you go, Umbreon V and VMAX. I think they are so good for single strike decks. I think they're going to help a lot. We talked about why Tyranitar and Galarian Slowking aren't as good as Umbreon, and what Umbreon does that just will really help. Psychic decks are going to be popular, and if you're a fighting type deck player now like myself, and you're like, I am so tired of all the Dragapults and all the Mewtwo, Mew GX, and I'm tired of the random Alcremies, like, Umbreon V is gonna be the thing that brings your deck to prominence, to relevance, and single strike isn't really relevant right now because there's too many ways to counter it, and with Umbreon VMAX it'll make it a little bit easier to handle those psychic Pokemon. I personally am very excited. I can't wait to get my hands on it. August can't come fast enough, which is unfortunate because that's when I leave for basic training for the army, so that kinda sucks, but you know, it is what it is. That's gonna do it for us today. If you enjoyed this video, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe and bell notification button so you never miss another video. If you really want to help out the channel, leave a like and a comment telling me which is your favorite evolution and what you think of Umbreon V and VMAX and what will happen to single strike Pokemon in the future. And if you absolutely love this content, you're like, I need more of this guy in my life, well, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links in the description below. I don't know why I do weird hand stuff, but that is going to do it for us today. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.